Hello, hello, hello. Well, welcome. You've got a special guest here tonight. Victoria is ready to share all information she's ever learned as we've trained for setting goals and health goals and all those things. So you not only get to hear a monologue from me, but hopefully get evidence to show how our brains work, how chiropractic flows into even goal setting, but also hopefully you're creating some little ways that you can start making better choices for the new year. So we're going to talk about how we're recommending to look at setting goals and how do we make those so that they're attainable and achievable, all those fun ways. We're going to talk about some simple science behind goal setting. There's very easy science behind this. Our brains are wired for pleasure to some degree, and we have to reward ourselves in some way. Maybe it's not certain ways, maybe that's causing our habits, but those rewards, our brain is looking for those. So if it doesn't get rewards, it won't keep doing stuff, simply put. Just won't. We're going to talk about creating sustainable health goals. We all maybe want to, just have no pain, look amazing, feel amazing, have all the energy in the world. And those goals sometimes and what it might take would be so overwhelming that we just become more depressed to try to achieve all those in 1 second. So we're going to talk about how do we create the sustainable goals. We're going to review some of those simple steps and that you can take, and hopefully we have time to kind of set some before we leave. So let's talk some goals.
So 91% of people give up on their New Year's resolution by February. So not even a month in, they just decide they can't do it or it's too hard. Change is hard. The only constant thing is change, and you better get used to change. But small change. People with clear goals plus a support system can get to their goals. But you have to know where you are and you have to know where you're going. And you have to know who to surround yourself with, because that's huge.
So when you get those small wins, I was just talking about that. Small wins increase dopamine. Dopamine is ultimately, that chemical, that's that feel-good chemical. When you get adjusted, you actually release dopamine. Positive habits, making some small wins, those can increase dopamine. And those dopamine receptors are what needs to have some retention in order for you to continue with those changes. And that's why I think things do need to change up and be fluid as well as not mundane. You might be doing something that's really helpful, but your brain might not get the same dopamine rushes it did in the beginning, right? So we have to look at how to change and modify, I should say, small modifications.
Yeah, and it's not about perfection either, because if you just miss one day of whatever workout you were supposed to do, that doesn't mean just quit. Like tomorrow's a new day. Get up and try again.
And we've found that if you have goals that are really connected to your values, things that are in your heart that you want to achieve, health, family goals, they're going to stick longer because they're coming from somewhere that's more of the depth of who you are. So those are kind of some of the reasons that goals, again, from inspiration versus desperation, maybe.
And one thing I've been working on from one of the workshops we were on, they were talking about your 5 pillars of like what you build your life on. What are your 5 pillars? I've been thinking a lot about mine. I think mine are my family, my faith, education is important to me, whether it's teaching or learning, both sides of education. My career is very important, and also culture is hugely important to me. So when I'm thinking about making my goals for next year, I want them to somehow be able to stand on those 5 pillars of what my values are.
How's your nervous system, that system involved in this whole process? Well, first off, your prefrontal cortex, that's your planning and decision-making part of your brain. When you're under fight or flight, it's really hard to even use your prefrontal cortex. Have you ever been so just like overwhelmed that you can't even remember how to get home or whatever? That's your prefrontal cortex being turned off to work on those more primitive centers. We call it reptilian brain. But your prefrontal cortex is actually what is stimulated when you get adjusted too. So oddly enough, your body's wired to be working at a higher level, but there's a lot of factors that affect that prefrontal cortex. The amygdala that is going to manage those emotions and stress. So sometimes that's an overactive part of the brain for a lot of us, and then that again is competing for sort of attention. And if the prefrontal cortex is being pulled away, creating even a goal or having something that makes sense is hard to plan through when that prefrontal cortex isn't at its highest level of function. When your body's inflamed or misaligned, subluxated, or chronic pain, you inhibit the communication in these areas, and it just derails follow through. There can be such a boost of energy and excitement when you're getting adjusted because your brain it's rewired for that moment, and the prefrontal cortex is starting to connect to your body. turning itself back on, turning the channels back on, they've been turned off.
Body-mind connection, totally real. Your thoughts that you think in your head become physical things. I mean, think about where your thought goes. It starts in your brain and it goes right down your spinal cord. So if that's a positive thought, that's good. But there's a lot of negative thoughts. I know in my head, probably yours, there's a lot of negative thoughts out in the world. So putting those things into us, whether it's through TV or, what you're listening to or what you're reading, who you surround yourself with. So adjustments help to support your nervous system, and it improves everything that our bodies are made to do innately. But just remember that those negative thoughts become negative things in our body.
Your body was wired, though, to handle stressors. It was wired to handle negative thoughts and emotions. It's the constant chronic bombardment without interruption that starts to wire you to a consistent pattern in which the brain gets kind of stuck. That's what chronic pain is. We want to rewire the brain. So what is it really that happens? And then we get this because we ask you guys, what do you want to get out of the care here? Oh, I want to feel better. Okay, it's kind of a vague goal. You know what I mean? I just want to be healthier. I want wellness. So does everyone. And just so you know, your body really wasn't wired for wellness. It was wired to stay alive. It's wired to survive. And so there's things in our lives that are going on that will inhibit wellness, but our body has to react that maybe the healthiest option in the long term, but in the short term, it gets us to that next step. We need to be very specific on our goals. That's number one. Too vague means won't happen or just unlikely. And again, it's probably not even really objective. I'm healthier today. Why? Because you feel good? Yeah. Because I could do a deep squat? Oh, that might be a little bit more of an objective thing, right? Okay. Too big, too fast, right? So again,
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, and weight comes to mind a lot of times with this. People, I got to lose whatever, and the end of the week they didn't hit their 50-pound goal of weight loss and throw it out the window.
Support and accountability. I'm telling you, if I didn't have my husband behind me and whatever craziness I've decided to take on, thank God he loves me. This guy right here, like, Victoria, you got this. You can do this. When I just want to throw the towel in. Surrounding yourself by those supportive people that aren't going to let you just give up is huge to get where you want to go. Not being tied to your core values, just like I said, think of what those pillars are in your life. What are your core values? And make sure your goals match those. It's going to help you achieve where you want to go if it's a value that you hold. And always plan for setbacks. Progress over perfection, says the perfectionist. I'm trying to be a reformed perfectionist, but I'm still a perfectionist. But progress is going to make you better. You don't have to get to perfection. You just have to keep going forward.
Yeah, perfection
It's the enemy
of success.
Yeah.
There's your pillars.
Hey,
Look at
my
that.
pillars.
These are different pillars, but your pillars,
Okay.
isn't that wild?
Yeah, so you want specificity. You want it to be clear and measurable. You want simplicity, one step at a time, baby steps. When you were a baby, you didn't learn to run a marathon on day 3 out of the womb. You had to crawl first. My daughter scooted before she crawled. There are steps to take. Support, having that support so you're not doing it by yourself. Even if it's just a friend to text and say, hey, I got out of bed today. And I know for some people, that's a goal to get out of bed. So having somebody to share that little win with, it's always nice. Self-awareness, knowing yourself and knowing why. We all here have statements of desire. There are whys, why we do what we do, why we serve our community in a chiropractic office. So can find out why it is you do what you do to become more self-aware of what is inside of you. Again, it goes back to what you said at the beginning. It's about your heart, looking inside of yourself. And then structure. You want to try to build those patterns into your day. I always wanted to meditate every day. I have the Brain Tap headset. I keep it right next to my bed. Every morning when my alarm goes off, I hate getting out of bed. I put my Brain Tap headset on and I do my meditation before my feet even hit the floor. Now I can say pretty much at least 5 days a week, I do a meditation every morning and my brain is much better for it. So it's about having those little things that are near you to remind you, hey, you need to do that.
Brain-based healing is very important. And so there's something called Brain Tap. It's just basically it's a headset with lights that flash in front of your eyes as well and has auricular therapy kind of lights here. So the program itself could be done just with earpods, but if you want like the maximum, we have these sets that we rent. You have. But just in case you didn't know what we're talking about, brain tap. It's not like we just like tap someone. It's just it's more of a program. But anyway, just so you know. So what we found, I've seen some people who do need a really hard start and stop of a program, and they need to kind of jump all in. I have some that go, you know what? If I could do a little bit today and change one habit, then I can improve. I think they both can work for a lot of different people, but this example is kind of like a nice little understanding. What are some of the simple things we could start to do and they just become habits? I want to be able to do something that's sustainable. In the long term, anything that you want to do has to be somewhat sustainable. Just saying that, let's say, that you want to have better eating habits. Well, if we really restrict your eating habits and then you go to eating healthier, it may seem really easy and much better because it was so hard to begin with. That wasn't so sustainable. So that comes along. But what we've seen is there's another way to do that too, where let's say you go, I'm going to eat healthier, okay? So let's start with the first week. I love soda. I drink it all the time. I'm going to now replace that with water just 3 times a week. I still have my little reward in that way if you want that, but at least 3 times a week I'm going to make sure I just drink water, not soda, right? So hopefully that's I can do this. Hopefully you have some wins. You say I can do that. By week 2, and you might, let's just say you failed. What's your, if we have a plan, if you have a plan and it doesn't succeed, you're like, I was craving it too bad. I had this horrible headache. I just felt miserable because my body was craving all the junk that I put in there. Just totally why food is created to be addictive. You then the next week go, well, I did 1 week time this week. I'm going to do 2. You wait till you get 3. That's your fall back. Oh, I failed. It's okay. You keep going till you get 3. You get 3, you tell them, I did it. The next week, you're going to start adding a veggie to lunch every day. If your lunch doesn't have anything that's very nutritious, you're adding at least something in there, vegetable or fruit or something that's nutritious. And do that every day. Every day, you're I had that one nutritious thing. So now you're drinking a little more water. You're getting vegetables in your diet. By week 3, you might start a whole recipe. So the whole meal now is you're going to start to make one meal, maybe a couple times a week. That is an anti-inflammatory recipe or meal. And then you're I could do these meals like this. And that's how these things build. It's replacing this for that is very helpful. Adding them in slowly is huge. Chiropractic here absolutely is a catalyst for better health, mainly because we're working with your nervous system, that master controller. At the moment of conception, you have a little bit of gray matter. That's your brain. It's there immediately. That is the master controller. And after that, you get this little notochord, we call it. It's a spinal cord. After that, you then create these little nerve endings that come off of that, and then these little buds form on all those little nerve endings, and those are your organs. So you're talking about your heartbeat at this day or what your brain was going before that. If my heart stops, what's more important? Well, then my brain can communicate even if my heart stops or if I don't breathe. The most important system in your body is absolutely your brain. So when you get adjusted, again, we're stimulating that frontal lobe. Research has proven that. When you're getting adjusted, most people sleep better. They recover faster. There is usually less pain for most people. Emotional balance is key. There was a research that was done, I think it was 1,800 questionnaires, but there's standardized questionnaires are called outcome measures. It's the same questions and you just ask and everyone fills them out. And they did this with chiropractic patients. And the most resounding change was in the emotional health of people, not their physical health. Yeah. So your brain changes when you get adjusted. It's more doable when your body's in alignment and supported, right? This is good. I think we could probably do this.
This is kind of like your health vision for next year. So I wanted to share with you, I make every year a vision board. It's basically what I want to work on next year. So here you can see I love to read, so I've got my books and I have the number 36. So I want to read 36 books next year. So that's about 3 a month. There's teamwork and leadership things on there, speaking engagements, international travel. It's just the things that I'm excited about. And in the middle there, I've got a brain, and that little picture explains neuroplasticity and how the brain can be changed because I've seen it, I've experienced it. And then I always pick a word of the year. So my word for next year is grow. And then I found this great acronym. It is get rid of old ways, grow. So next year I am going to grow. I'm actually starting right now, but
that's awesome.
So I challenge you to make your vision board. And if you make them, you can cut out magazines and just post, whatever, however you want to do it. I did mine on a computer screen, and then it's the background of my laptop at home. So if you guys create your visions, bring them in. I'd love to see them.
Yeah, and the one thing it's about accountability is if you share something with others, it compounds the energy toward that process.
Yeah.
And we would love it if you guys share it on social media. You come in here and just share it with us. Our hope is that you first say, well, what kind of health do you want? What is it that change in your health that you want? Remember, be specific. If there's one meaningful reason for wanting that, why? What's that one tiny action that you can take, whatever this is, in the next couple of weeks to work toward that goal? We always suggest trying to work momentum before the new year. That's always recommended. And give yourself a little reward with the holiday saying, yeah, I did pretty good up to that point. Now I got to get back on, I have a plan. Who's someone that could help support you in this progress? Is there someone? All right. What habits, appointments should you put into your calendar so you don't forget these goals? These are the simple things. These are the ways that you're going to make some changes. If anyone would like to share anything, that's cool. But I know we're past time. So, well, you guys have a good night. It was great to see everyone on here. Good to see everybody.